Somewhere in your budget right now, there is $50 you would never miss. It does not touch your rent or your bills.
Time and
you
let the
spend
good
it
years
every
and
week on
terrible
small things you have
years
already
cancel each
forgotten
other out
by
into
Friday.
one
Most people let that money
curve.
drift.
There is
for
no
40
thrill
years
here
and
never
no
think
big win
twice
to
about
brag
it.
about.
But
handle
boring,
one very
repeated for
specific
long
way.
enough.
That
quietly
same
beats
$50
brilliant
grows
almost
into
every single
something
time.
that can carry you
Maybe
for life.
you are in your
Here
40s
is the
or
$50
50s and
rule.
think 40 years
Once a
of.
week,
Every
compounding
week,
is not
you
on the
move
table for you
$50
anymore.
out of your checking
Starting
account
later does mean
and
a
into
smaller
an
number
investment
at the end
that owns
but
a
it does
tiny
not
slice
mean
of
the
the
rule stops
entire
working.
American
Take
stock
someone named
market.
Ramona
You
who
did
said
not
it to
begin
happen
until she was
automatically on the
46.
same day.
After
Whether
a
the
divorce
market
reset
is
her
up or
finances
down
to
whether
almost
you feel
nothing,
rich that week
she
or
could not do
completely
40
broke.
years.
Then
But
you
she
leave
could
it
do
alone
$50
and
a
let
week
time do
every
the part
single
you
week
cannot.
without fail.
Nudging it up a
once
little
week,
each time
automatic,
she invested.
got a raise.
And
When the
never
market
touched.
tumbled a few
The
years in
magic has
and half the
nothing
people
to do
she
with
knew
the
were pulling
amount
their
and
money
nothing.
out in a
To
fright.
do what
Some
she did
clever
the
stock
opposite
pick
and
it
kept
lives
right
in the
on
machine
buying.
underneath
By her
the quiet
mid-60s,
force that
she
turns
had built a
unforgettable.
cushion that
Weekly
completely
habit
changed
into
how
real
she
money
got to
while you
retire.
go about the
Not
rest
a
of your
private
life.
jet.
Here
Just to
is
pay
why
off.
the numbers.
Unhurried
50
Tom she
and
never
never
once believed
500
she would get to
$50
feel
a week
the
comes
best
out
time
to
to
about
start was 20
$7
years
a day.
ago.
The
The
second
single
best
lunch you
time
did
is the
not
very
really
next Friday
need
that comes
to
around.
coffees or
Maybe
one
takeout
$50
orders
you would
a
have
week feels
forgotten
like a
by the
stretch.
weekend
From
anyway.
where you are standing
Over
today,
a month it adds
the
up
number is
to a
not
little
sacred.
more than
Start with
$225
$25
and across
or
a full
even
year it
$10.
lands right
And
around
the exact same machine still
$2,600.
runs.
Dollar
Just at a smaller scale.
$2,600 a year
What
sounds
matters
like
far
something
more
more
than
than
the
the
size
size
of.
$7
The
a day
amount
feels
is
like
that the
nothing
habit
at
exists,
all.
and
That gap
never
between
stops.
how small
And you can always
it feels
raise it
and
later
how much
as
it
your
adds up
income
to
climbs.
is the
And
entire
if
psychology
$50
of
a
this
week
rule.
is easy
You
for
will
you,
fight hard
double
to hold
it to
on to
$100
$100
a week
in one
and you
big
roughly
move.
double
Then
every number
let far
here.
more than
That nearly
that week out of your life
$1.47
million
million
turns into something
approaching.
approaching.
The $50 will
million
take
across a
that
working
same
life.
leak
Put
whatever
and
number
simply
you
points
land on
in the other
make
direction.
it automatic
Now
and
make
make
it
it
invisible
underneath
because a
compounding.
habit you have to
Your
talk
money
yourself
starts
into
making
every
money.
single week is
And then that
a
new
habit
money
you will
starts
eventually
making
talk
money
yourself
too.
out of.
In the early
Here
years
is what
what
this
is
rule is
painfully
really
boring.
about. Once
You
you
put
strip
in your
the
$50
math
a week
away
and watch
every
it crawl.
Friday that
But
$50
somewhere down
leaves
the
your
line,
account.
the
You are
returns
casting
you earn
a
each
small
year
vote
become
for the person
larger
than the money you
want
are
to be
adding.
in 30 years.
And the whole
Someone
thing tips
over
who gets to slow
into
down
something
and
else
is not
entirely.
wide-awake doing
There is an
anxious
old
arithmetic
shortcut
about
called the
money.
rule of
Plenty
72.
of people who look
Divide
wealthy are
70
barely
to
holding
buy
on behind
your
the
yearly
curtain.
return.
And plenty
And
of people who look completely
10% the
ordinary
American
have been
stock
running
market
this
has
exact plan for
averaged
decades.
over its whole
There was
history.
never a trick
Your
hiding
money
in
doubles
here.
about
Just
every
a
7
small
years.
number.
Then
A bit
doubles
of patience
again and again.
time doing the
The
one
last
thing that
double is
only
the one
time
that
can
changes
do.
your life.
It never
And you
required
only
you
reach
to.
it
By
Be
surviving
brilliant or
all
lucky
the small
or born into
the
money.
ones that
Only
paid
to
for.
start small
In
and
your
refuse
first
to
12
stop.
months, you will have
You
set
almost
aside to
certainly
$1,600
already have a $50
and
a
the
week.
growth on top
Leaks
of it
somewhere
is
in
small
your life
enough
right
to
now.
shrug at.
And you
By
are the
year
one who
5, you
gets
have
to decide
contributed
which direction it
$13,000
flows from
of your
here.
own.
Tell
And
me in
the
the
account has
comments
begun
if you
throwing
have
off a few
already
thousand
been extra on its
Some
own.
version of the
Around
$50
your 10
rule
is where people
and
start
what
to
it has
feel
grown
it.
into. Contributions and gains running neck and neck. Somewhere past year 15 or 20, the money the account earns in a single year starts to outrun everything you put in that whole year. So what does $50 a week really turn into? Say you hold this for 40 years, the length of a normal working life. You will have put in about $104,000 of your own money. If that sat in a checking account earning nothing, that is all you would ever have. Move that exact same $50 a week into a broad stock index instead. And at the market's long-run average of about 10% a year, the $104,000 you contributed grows into nearly $1.4 million. Everything above what you contributed, well over $1 million of it, is money the machine made for you while you did nothing but leave it alone. Even at a gentler 7%, closer to what many planners use after inflation, that same $50 a week becomes about $570,000 across 40 years. Cut the time to 30 years, and you still land near $500,000 at the historical average, having contributed only $78,000 of your own dollars. The money you add is the small part. The money that time adds is the fortune. When you buy a broad index fund, you are betting on the entire American economy to keep doing what it has done for more than 100 years, which is grow. You are not tied to the fortunes of any single company. The strongest businesses rise while the weak ones fall out of the index and get replaced, and your fund holds the winners the whole way through. There have been wars, crashes, and deep recessions scattered across every decade. And through all of it, the long line still points up and to the right. Think about someone named Dia who started this at 24 in her first real job. She drove for a delivery company. packed her own lunch most days, and set up an automatic $50 transfer every Friday into a simple index fund because an older coworker swore by it. For the first few years, almost nothing happened. Her balance looked like a joke, and friends gave her a hard time about it. She kept going anyway and barely looked at the account. By her late 30s, the balance had crossed a number that made her sit up straight. By her 50s, it was growing by more in a single good year than she had earned at that entire first job. She never made a big salary or got a lucky break. What she had was stubbornness, and stubbornness quietly built her a fortune while everyone around her kept chasing something faster. The rule only works if the $50 lands somewhere that lets it grow. The engine of the whole thing is a broad, low-cost index fund, buying you a sliver of hundreds of the largest businesses in the country at once. For most people, the smartest place to hold that fund is inside a Roth account. In 2026, you are allowed to put up to $7,500 a year into a Roth retirement account, and your $50 a week only adds up to about $2,600. So you fit inside that limit with room to spare. You pay your taxes on the money going in, and then every dollar it grows into comes back out completely tax-free in retirement. So that nearly $1.4 million would be yours to keep. The setup is easier than you think and takes about 10 minutes one time. Open a Roth account with any big low-cost brokerage. Buy a broad index fund with a rock-bottom fee, and set up an automatic transfer of $50 every week, timed for the day after you get paid. So the money moves before you ever get the chance to spend it. Then forget the password for a while. Check it twice a year, never twice a day. A quick word on the account almost everyone confuses with this one. A high-yield savings account is a wonderful tool, and right now the best of them pay around 4%, while the average savings account pays a sad 0.4%. But savings is where you park money, not where you grow it. You want a solid emergency fund sitting safe in savings, and you want your $50 wealth engine running in the market. To different jobs, to different accounts. Waiting is never free, even though it feels like it is. Every year you leave that $50 sitting in cash instead of investing it. You lose the growth it could have earned. Growth that roughly doubles every 7 years or so, while inflation chews away at the cash you did keep. The most valuable dollars in this entire plan are the ones you invest at the very beginning. The ones with the longest runway to grow. The ones you will be most tempted to skip. If the rule is this simple, why doesn't everyone end up wealthy? Because there are a few sneaky ways people break it. The first is never actually investing the money, letting it pile up in a regular savings account or just sitting in checking. The habit is there, but the engine is switched off, parked at nothing for 40 years. Your $50 a week ends at $104,000. Put to work in the market, it ends near $1.4 million. Same discipline, wildly different life. Next comes panic. When the market drops hard, people get scared, stop their transfers, and sell everything at the worst possible moment, while the ones who keep buying straight through the ugly years come out ahead because they are scooping up shares on sale. The third killer is fees, hiding in plain sight. 1 or 2% skimmed off every year can quietly eat a -1 figure bite out of your final number over 40 years. So pick the low-cost index fund and starve that leak before it starts. The last killer is impatience dressed up as ambition. Getting bored with slow and steady and yanking money out to chase a hot stock or a coin a friend. Swears is about to explode. Let me be honest about the part that never makes it onto the thumbnail. The $50 rule is slow, painfully slow. The first 10 years can feel like almost nothing is happening, and that long stretch breaks most people before the good part shows up. It also comes with no guarantees. The 10% average is exactly that, an average pulled across almost 100 years, and in any single year the market might leap 25% or fall 20%. That average only shows up for the people who stay in the hole time and let the good years and terrible years cancel each other out into one long upward curve. There is no thrill here, no big win to brag about, but boring, repeated for long enough, quietly beats brilliant almost every single time. Maybe you are in your 40s or 50s and think 40 years of compounding is not on the table for you anymore. Starting later does mean a smaller number at the end, but it does not mean the rule stops working. Take someone named Ramona who did not begin until she was 46. After a divorce reset her finances down to almost nothing, she could not do 40 years, but she could do $50 a week every single week without fail, nudging it up a little each time she got a raise. When the market tumbled a few years in and half the people she knew were pulling their money out in a fright, she did the opposite and kept right on buying. By her mid-60s, she had built a cushion that completely changed how she got to retire. Not a private jet, just a paid-off, unhurried calm she never once believed she would get to feel. The best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is the very next Friday that comes around. Maybe $50 a week feels like a stretch. From where you are standing today, the number is not sacred. Start with $25 or even $10, and the exact same machine still runs, just at a smaller scale. What matters far more than the size of the amount is that the habit exists and never stops. And you can always raise it later as your income climbs. And if $50 a week is easy for you, double it to $100 a week. And you roughly double every number here. That nearly $1.40 million turns into something approaching $3 million across a working life. Whatever number you land on, make it automatic and make it invisible. Because a habit you have to talk yourself into every single week is a habit you will eventually talk yourself out of. Here is what this rule is really about once you strip the math away. Every Friday that $50 leaves your account, you are casting a small vote for the person you want to be in 30 years. Someone who gets to slow down and does not lie awake doing anxious arithmetic about money. Plenty of people who look wealthy are barely holding on behind the curtain. And plenty of people who look completely ordinary have been running this exact play for decades. There was never a trick hiding in here, just a small number, a bit of patience, and time doing the one thing that only time can do. It never required you to be brilliant or lucky or born into money, only to start small and refuse to stop. You almost certainly already have a $50 a week leak somewhere in your life right now, and you are the one who gets to decide which direction it flows from here.